What if I told you that time is not what you think it is? That Mars isn't a barren wasteland, but a past or even a future version of Earth? And what if our entire reality, our wars, our history, our technology, is simply playing out in a loop, repeating itself over and over without us even realizing it? What if the so-called coincidences you experience every day, the repeating numbers, the déjà vus, the sudden alignment of thoughts and reality, aren't random at all, but signs that you're slipping between different layers of existence? In the 1980s, the CIA ran a top-secret program known as the Stargate Project, a classified effort to train military remote viewers to physically access distant locations.
That's a grouping of pyramids. And that's a building, or what's left of a building on a sort of a plateau. And that's the drawing I did of the larger beings. What I think in actuality, there really are no such thing as Martians. What I think Martians are is us. I think we're descendants of the original inhabitants of Mars. And we're the ones that never went back. Give you an idea of size, that's the rough size of the Pyramid of Giza. Give you an idea of scale.
Many ancient cultures spoke of cosmic cycles, massive resets that occur every 26,000 years. The Hindu Yuga cycle, the Mayan long count calendar, even Sumerian records all describe a pattern where civilizations rise, fall, and reset in alignment with movement of celestial objects. Some believe this cycle is caused by a hidden celestial body, Planet X or Nibiru, a massive object that moves through our solar system in an elliptical orbit every 26,000 years, bringing destruction in its wake. Could this be what wiped out Mars?
And yet at the same time, we found that the planet Mars was specifically identified as the pupil in the eye. And so as Dave and I thought about this situation, we quickly arrived at the idea that Mars must have stood in front of Venus, whereas a smaller body, it would appear as a dark dot or pupil inside the Venusian eye. Now, of course, in today's sky, Mars can't appear in front of Venus since it's an outer planet. But Mars is significantly smaller than Venus, so if it could stand in front of Venus, it would present this image that we had reconstructed of what the eye must have looked like. So this finding, this, let's say, hypothetical finding early on, it generated a host of other deductions. Mars must have formed the axle of the Venusian wheel. Mars was the child at Venus's breast, as depicted in numerous artworks of Inanna and Isis. We could supply hundreds and hundreds of other examples. In none of those examples, however, would the myth hold if Mars was behind Venus, like it is in today's sky, because of course you couldn't see it. you just see Venus. So it has to be in front of Venus. So that's just one case of countless dozens where slowly but surely we pieced together the evidence and arrived at the conclusion that during this particular phase in the evolution of the polar configuration, Mars must have been in front of Venus and thus closer to the Earth than the
At
other
one
planets.
point, habitable life existed on Mars, and it was stripped of its magnetosphere, maybe due to an asteroid
Because it was
impact.
moved. Something passed through our solar system and took inner area planets
Mhm.
and moved them to outer areas, outer rim.
And what do you
And
think?
outer rim planets were moved to inner rim.
What do you
inner
think?
rim.
What do you think moved through our solar system?
Some big object passed through our solar system that did that
Any-
with its gravity field.
Yeah.
Okay, it probably stripped the atmosphere of Mars at the same time. It's impossible to know now. It could be a wild planet out there doing an elliptical orbit that takes 20,000 years.
The idea of time loops and planetary resets takes an even stranger turn when we consider whistleblower accounts of jump rooms, devices supposedly used to transport humans to Mars. Andrew Basiago, a former participant in Project Pegasus, claims he was part of a CIA-led mission where a jump room teleported him directly to Mars. But what if this jump room wasn't just moving people through space, but shifting them into a different dimension entirely? What if the Mars Basiago experienced wasn't the Mars of our timeline, but an alternate version, one where civilization still exists, a Mars that is still thriving in a different frequency of reality?
So my dad had the technician turn the device on, and the radiant energy that Tesla had discovered as a form of energy that was latent and pervasive in the physical universe suddenly was illuminated between the two booms. And it was very beautiful. It looked like water falling in a public sculpture, such as you'll find in a park where the sculptor has used falling water as a design element. But then my dad had us go up a foot from the energy field, and it looked like black and white raster on a television set, the snow pattern that you get particularly in the old black and white TV sets. And I could see that emanating from portals that were about 3 inches apart on the interior or concave side of both of these elliptical shaped booms, there were small ports that were emitting a bluish green light pattern that was moving across the radiant energy, sort of squiggling like a tadpole swimming along in the water. And my dad explained that on the count of 3, we would hold hands and jump through the energy pattern, this field of radiant energy. And we would find ourselves in an illuminated tunnel for several seconds. And then the tunnel would close, and we would find ourselves, as he put it, on a hillside elsewhere in the United States. Well, in fact, the hillside was the state capitol grounds in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a distance of some 2,005 miles from Woodridge, New Jersey. So we did a couple of dry runs where he held my hand and we practiced leaping forward on the count of 3.
How did you feel?
I was astonished. For one thing, I looked over at my father when we were in the tunnel, and his hair was moving all over the place because of the sort of electrostatic energy. He later said that I looked absolutely terrified.
Oh, really?
Essentially overwhelmed because we were moving through a portal tunnel in time-space.
This brings us to something even more personal. If time is looping, if different dimensions exist simultaneously, are you already slipping between them? Have you been seeing repeating numbers 333, 555, or even 111 appearing multiple times a day? Have you thought about something only to see it appear in reality a few days later? Have you noticed people or events shifting like details of the world around you don't quite match up? maybe, just maybe, you're already experiencing dimensional bleed through, the effect of reality shifting between parallel versions of itself.
When a person undergoes a transformative experience, often these archetypes activate, sending ripples into the world. In other words, the activated energy might draw towards itself events, situations, or people that resonate with it, manifesting as synchronicities. This practice of interpreting the synchronicities could be likened to reading a secret language, deciphering codes that lead to a better understanding of oneself and the world.
So what does this mean? If time loops are real, if Mars is both our past and our future, if celestial cycles are inevitable, because that means we are stuck in a script that keeps repeating? Or can we break the loop? And more importantly, if our thoughts are shaping the reality we experience, what happens when we begin to consciously choose which version of reality to tune into? If you've been seeing these numbers, experiencing synchronicities, or feeling disconnected from this reality, let me know in the comments. Are we shifting timelines, or are we just starting to wake up to the illusion?